Hi, I'm Lee with Spirit World Flutes, and today I'm going to show you how to clean and maintain your Native American style flute and also make an inexpensive cleaning tool out of a piece of brass rod. Alright, I have my camera set up so you can see what I'm doing. Here is a piece of brass rod. I'll have all of the items listed below in the video so you know exactly what I'm using here. And first we're going to start off by making a loop on the end of the brass. And I like to use a pair of needle nose pliers. And I'll try to keep this in frame so you can see what I'm doing. So take the needle nose and you want to bend the end of the brass into a loop like so. So that's pretty much what it should look like right there. Okay, so now using a Sharpie, I'm going to mark up approximately 3/4 of an inch from the end of that loop and put a mark. And here's the mark. And also using the needle nose pliers once again, we're going to put the needle nose pliers on the inside of the mark toward the loop, and we're going to bend that 180 degrees. And using the pliers, I'm going to tighten that loop up a little bit so that it's not so big. And when you are done bending, this is what it is going to look like. Okay, so now I like to make cleaning tools for two different sets of the size flutes that I sell. I like a smaller rod for keys mid B through G and a larger rod for keys mid through F and D. And so now we're going to take the end of the piece of brass that we just finished bending up and put it all the way into the end of the flute you're going to use. So this is an A, and so I want to be able to use this cleaning rod on up to a G flute, and I know that a G flute is approximately 2 inches longer than an A flute. And I also need to leave room for the rod to where to go in all the way. So we're going to measure over about approximately 1 inch away from the end of the flute, you can see there, and then add another 2 inches to that point, and that's where we're going to start making marks. So I'll mark that with the Sharpie first. Okay. And then we're going to mark it again at 1.5 inches from that point, and also at 5 inches. Put the Sharpie to the side, we're done using that. And then at the 5-inch mark, we're going to cut the end of the brass rod off because we won't need any of the excess. All right, and set the excess off to the side. If you have smaller flutes, like in the highs, you can make another cleaning tool using a piece of smaller brass rod. You know, you just keep going down in sizes for the size of the flute you use, just so that it fits inside the bore of the flute. All right, so now we're going to take the brass rod and we're going to put a loop on the end of the brass that we just cut. Make your loop pretty tight. If you have difficulty bending brass rod, you can also use aluminum. It's easier to bend. I like using brass because it's much more durable. It doesn't bend as easy as what aluminum does. And this is what the piece of brass rod is going to look like after it's bent. And you'll see I have the mark here at the 1.5 and the 1 inch point that we made the mark at from the edge of the flute. All right, now we're going to take our pliers and line it up on that 1.5 inch mark, and we're going to bend that 180 degrees back on over onto itself. All right, and so that's what it looks like. Okay, now we're going to take the pliers again and put it at the the mark at the edge of the flute plus the 1 inch. So the edge of the flute would have been here, so it's plus the 1 inch. So we're going to bend that 90 degrees from that point. And then I'm going to straighten my brass rod up a little bit, just so it looks a little neater, so everything's in line. And when you're done, this is what your tool should look like. So this is the handle side, and this is the actual cleaning side that you're going to be using a cleaning swab on the inside of the bore. All right, set my tools off to the side, my ruler, and we're going to show you how to use this tool. So I like to use t-shirt material for the swab on this end of the tool. All right, so this piece of t-shirt material is approximately 1 inch wide, and I'm guessing it's about 7 inches long, based on the ones that I've measured and cut previously. So on larger flutes, I like to take 2 of these and double them up to add thickness so that I'm able to take up the space easier inside the flute. So there's more contact area inside of it. And so you want to put the piece of cotton t-shirt material on the end of your tool, and then you want to wrap it around the tool like so. Okay, and you can set that down and take your flute, and we're going to start using oil. The oil I like to use for my flutes is refined avocado oil. And the reason why I like refined avocado oil is that it's really thin, it's stable, it's not going to degrade on you. So we're going to take and cover up the slow air chamber exit, which is right here with your finger. Put your thumb over it, and then you want to pour the oil into the entrance of the flute. So where your mouth goes, pour about 10 to 15 drops in there, or thereabouts, doesn't need to be exact. Okay. And then you want to take your finger and put your finger over the edge of this mouth entrance and move the flute around. And what you're doing is you are putting the oil all the way inside of the slow air chamber. This is the most important part of making sure you have the oil inside of your flute, because that's where your breath is, and that's where the greatest likelihood of a crack can occur in your flute. All right, so then once you have that done, you want to take and churn your flute upwards so that the oil runs out of the slow air chamber into the splitting edge of the fipple end of your flute, so it goes down inside the bore. And let's see if you can see that coming in. There it goes, it's running down now. Okay, I just like to do that so I'm not wasting the oil that's in the slow air chamber. All right, so now we're going to set the flute down, take some of that avocado oil and put it on the cotton swab. Oil it up. You don't need a whole lot of oil because we're going to be using some of the oil that was from the inside of the slow air chamber. You want to put it into your flute and spin it as you're churning your cleaning rod in and out of your flute. And so that's going to cover the inside of the flute with the avocado oil. Other types of oils you can use are tree nut oils like walnut oil, almond oil. You can also use food grade mineral oil, which is also known as butcher block conditioning oil. I don't like using cooking oils because they can become rancid and nobody wants a smelly flute. So after you have that oiled, you're going to take your swab out and you're going to take it off of the brass rod and you're going to use it to clean and oil the area where your sound block sits, the ramp and the splitting edge. If you look inside your flute and you happen to find some gunk inside of it, you can use a pipe cleaner that you get from a craft store. And these are kind of like a continuous loop in the pipe cleaner. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but what's nice about these, you're not going to get any little fuzzy things falling off of your to get inside of your flute. So I take that and I actually twist it fold it over in half and twist it up onto itself, and then I use that to go inside and clean the area inside just to get any debris you might have inside of your flute. And you can actually use it and get down inside the flute, and you can get down inside the other area where the flute bore is, and just go in there and clean it really well. You want to oil your flutes approximately every 6 months. I would oil them more often if you have a flute that's not finished on the inside in the slow air chamber like mine are. I use a durable non-toxic finish that I make for my flutes, and I actually coat the inside and out of the flute, so my flutes are really stable and I have very little likelihood that my flutes are going to crack. Some of the flute manufacturers only will oil the outside of the flute, not the inside, and that's where you'll have issues with the flute drying out and cracking because of that difference, where the inside of the flute is raw wood and it can absorb moisture, whereas the outside is protected and it's not going to absorb moisture as much, and so that differences in the material will cause your actual wood to crack on your flutes. So after you are done with that, use that swab again and just go over your flute with the oil, and just go over the whole thing and rub it down with the oil. And then I like to set the flute aside on top of a rag and lean it up vertically against the wall, so all the oil that's in the bore and in the mouth hole in the slow air chamber is going to run out and not stay inside your flute. You really just need to leave it stay overnight, and that's really it. Then, you know, every 2 to 3 times you play your flute, you really should be using flute wax on it, and you want to wax the top of the flute where your sound block goes, and also wax the bottom of the sound block, and that will help protect it and prolong the time you need in between oiling your flutes. I hope you found this video useful. I will put a list of the materials and tools that I use in this video in the description below, and thanks for watching.